let's keep looking at the fallout of the Ukraine fallout, shall we say. Here's Glenn Greenwald and Dan Crenshaw going at it on the Piers Morgan show. Compare what Dan Crenshaw claimed here in my debate with him about Ukraine on Piers Morgan, that I was lying and ignorant when I said the Ukrainian front line was collapsing. So, you know, the Democrats went all in and insist that this is a horrible surrender. But obviously, the Republicans still have their hawks in the caucus as well. Here's Dan Crenshaw just coming back at Glenn Greenwald with outright lies about the state of the war.
I just think we should save our fury about whether Ukraine get included or not for when they actually get excluded.
Can I just insert a little bit of realism into the conversation?
Yes.
Because I know Dan started off by saying, "Oh, Russia's this crappy little second-rate power. We have to flatter them and make them think they matter, but they really don't. They're really weak." It's always a pretty weird contradiction to simultaneously say that and then at the same time warn that Russia's going to start invading Western Europe, this crappy little second-rate power. But the reality is, this is the reality whether you like it or not, Russia has fought a war now for 3 years against unified NATO and the United States, pouring hundreds of billions of dollars and highly sophisticated weapons into Ukraine, and the front line continues to move westward, not eastward, where the Russians are gaining more and more territory. More and more Ukrainians are being killed. There are fewer Ukrainian men left in that country who want to fight. They're being forcibly dragged in there and used as cannon fodder, or they're fleeing and risking their lives to do it. The reality is Russia is winning the war or has won the war. And you can say, oh, you must be a Kremlin agent to say that.
Well, you know, you just got to know nothing about military information or tactics. That's what you have to do to say that. You just have to know nothing. So the idea that's clearly what you do.
Yeah, well,
what a clown.
Yeah. You got so many facts wrong, it's hard to know where to even start.
You can... you want it? You think Ukraine is winning the war? In which direction is the front line moved, Dan? Has it moved westward or eastward?
It depends on where you're looking at. It depends on where you're looking at. I hate to break it to you, but it depends on where you're looking at. And the ratios of Russian deaths to Ukrainian deaths is like 4 to 1. You just don't know what you're talking about. You've never fought anything.
You have no
idea
idea what
about the military.
I fought a lot of things. I fought a lot of things.
Oh, you fought a lot of things?
Just because you were in the military doesn't make you an expect. I'm sorry to say that Donald Trump...
I don't need to be an expert. I just know basic facts, and I have all the briefings on it. I don't think you do.
Clearly Russia is winning the war. The Ukrainians don't even want to go and fight this war any longer. They're fleeing the country.
It's a war of attrition with a stalemate. That's what we're looking at right now. That's the most honest way to look.
If it's a war of attrition, then it doesn't matter if Russia's lost more men than Ukraine. You just contradicted yourself. It's a war of attrition. First of all, if it's a war of attrition, what that means is that a stalemate favors the Russians. I got pushback of months and months back when I called it a stalemate, and I thought I clarified this as best I could, but people kept insisting a stalemate means Russia's winning. Yes, that's my point. That's my point, is that not a lot of movement on the front lines means Russia is winning because it's a war of attrition. So he just contradicted himself there. But here we go. Here's the rest of this. That's a good screenshot. I'm going to use that for the thumbnail. Glenn's face.
I'm sorry to say, one of the things that I know that you don't actually have to go join the military to understand is that Russia is many, many, many times larger than Ukraine. And that's the reason why the most prescient geopolitical experts, people have been on this show, I've interviewed them many times, people like John Mearsheimer and Jeffrey Sachs and Stephen Wald, all said since 2022, Ukraine will inevitably lose this war and Russia will win it. And I'll tell you why. This is the one point I want to make. When President Obama was on his way out of office in 2016, Jeffrey Goldberg interviewed him for a cover story on the Obama foreign policy doctrine. And he criticized Obama for not standing up to Russia in Syria and in Ukraine. And what Obama said was, the reality is Ukraine is and always has been and always will be of vital interest to Russia because it's right on the other side of their border. And it has never been and never will be a vital interest to the United States. So the idea that we're going to confront Russia or go to war with Russia over who governs various provinces in eastern Ukraine is absolute madness.
All right,
and President Obama was absolutely right, and President Trump thinks that too.
All right.
Yeah, sounds like he knows his stuff. Sounds like he knows his stuff there. And of course, he brought the receipts here to back up his claim. These are mainstream pro-Ukraine news outlets. We've covered this in the past before. Amid talk of a ceasefire, Ukraine's front line is crumbling. That's from The Economist, not exactly a pinko rag.
He pulled an Adam shit. Right. I get the briefings. You know, I'm not allowed to tell you, but I assure you that we have a smoking gun that Trump collaborated with Russia.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, this is, I have the briefings. I can tell you, we got them right where we want them. Right.
You don't see the briefings.
Right. Russian advances in Ukraine grew sevenfold in 2024. Data shows from France 24. The BBC, hardly a friend of Russia. Ukraine front could collapse as Russia gains accelerate, experts warn. See, even the experts warn of that. Their human resources are limited. Russia's advanced signal bleak spring. Or unlimited, pardon me. Russia's advances signal bleak spring for Ukrainians. So, yeah, look, I mean, the most obvious thing in the world, it's amazing that you have a member of government with such confidence and such smugness and arrogance talking to Greenwald as if you have no idea what the hell you're talking about. You are there telling the most transparent and obvious lie you possibly could, which is that this war is winnable for Ukraine when it is clearly not. Clearly, the result of what you're advocating is much more pointless death at best. At worst, it becomes nuclear and it swallows the entire world. Right. And you still have the arrogance to go on there and make this argument now? Now, after most of the country has turned against you, most of your own party has turned against you? That's the argument you go out and make now?
Well, because remember, guys like Dan Crenshaw are on a career path.
Right.
A veteran who is hawkish on the military, who always advocates for every war. He's going to get a nice, cushy job on the board of directors of some arms manufacturer. He's going to get those consultancy gigs. He'll probably be there on CNN spreading CIA bullshit. At least in the old world, you know, the results of what Trump is doing may make that world no longer exist, but he's betting it will. And that's what that's about. He's auditioning for his job, working for Boeing or Northrop Grumman. That's it. That's why these guys have those positions. And, you know, it's not just in the military. It's this is why a lot of what RFK is talking about in regards to food safety, this kind of thing, it's valid. And you do have a lot of people who have worked in these agencies who have allowed our food to get to the point that it's really poison, because they're going to leave government and they're going to go work for Monsanto. They're going to go work for these food agencies. It's the whole government is overrun by this core conflict of influence where people plan on cashing in on their political position by serving these companies in their official capacity while they're in government. That's what Dan Crenshaw is.
Please clap.